Move, Daddy. Her baby is dying out here. Lila Hart said it loud enough to stop the sidewalk. 7 years old, cheeks red from the cold, breath puffing in short clouds. She yanked her father's sleeve like the street itself was on fire. Adrian. Hart, billionaire CEO, froze mid-step. He had been walking fast, head full of meetings and numbers, the way powerful men learn to move through the world. But the panic in his daughter's voice was not the kind you ignore. It was the kind that makes even a city listen. On the stone steps outside the library, a young woman sat curled against the wall, knees pulled tight to her chest. She looked smaller than the winter around her. Her jacket was too thin, her hands bare, her face pale with that drained kind of cold that comes from being outside too long. In her arms was a newborn wrapped in a damp blanket. The baby's cry was weak, more like a whisper than a scream, as if the cold had taken half the strength already. Adrian's first instinct was the one his world had trained into him. Call security. Keep distance. Fix the problem from far away. His life ran on control, on risk charts. On clean borders between his world and everyone else's. He had learned that being soft in public could turn into a headline, and headlines could become targets. But Lila wasn't built like that. She stepped closer without fear, not because she was careless, but because she was human in the purest way. She knelt by the woman and stared at the baby with a face that held no judgment. Only worry. Her baby is shaking, Lila said, voice smaller. Now, but still fierce. She needs warmth right now. The woman looked up, startled. Her eyes were tired but sharp, the eyes of someone who has had to fight for every breath in another life's chest. She tightened her hold as if to shield the child. From the world, her lips moved, but no words came at first. Pride and fear tangled in her throat. Adrian crouched down slowly. He forced his voice to stay calm, not because he felt calm, but because calm is what keeps panic from spreading. Are you okay? What do you need? The woman swallowed once, then said it with a quiet honesty that didn't beg. Somewhere warm, she was. Born 2 weeks ago? We got turned away last night. I tried to keep her covered, but I don't think it's enough. Her name was Tessa. She didn't say it like she wanted pity. She said it like someone used to being judged before she finished a sentence. Her fingers were stiff and red. Her arms cradled the baby with careful love that showed she knew exactly what mattered, even if the world didn't. Adrian's eyes flicked to the blanket. The edge was wet, the kind of wet that makes cold bite harder. He felt an old tightness. In his chest, a battle between what he could do and what he was supposed to do. He could already hear his assistant's voice listing his schedule. The driver waiting, the board call in 20 minutes, the cameras that might appear if someone recognized him. Then he heard Lila again. Daddy, stop thinking, look at her. He did. Look. Not at the woman first, but at his daughter. Her eyes were wide, clear, and furious at the idea of walking away. Adrian had raised her alone since she was a baby, since the day her mother's heart had stopped in a hospital room too quiet. For such a loss, he had begged the heir to take his money instead, his company, his body, anything. The heir didn't listen. So he had learned to be both father and mother, both strength and softness, both shield and home. He tried to teach Lila kindness, but kindness wasn't something she learned from lessons. It lived in her bones. Before Adrian could speak, Lila unzipped her coat. She slipped it off and laid it gently over the newborn, tucking the sleeves around that tiny shaking body like she was sealing a promise. Now she's warm, Lila said. Her voice was steady as stone. Tessa jerked a little, shocked. Sweetheart, you'll be cold. Please, take it back. Lila shook her head hard. I don't care. She's colder than me. Adrian felt something crack in him. Not soft, but clean. Memory. Rushed up without asking. Years ago, long before skyscrapers carried his name, Adrian had slept in his car for months. He had been hungry, he had been freezing, he had been too proud to ask for help. One night a stranger had tapped his window, handed him a sandwich, and walked away without a word. No lecture, no pity, got just food, and a nod that said, you count. That sandwich had not only fed his body, It had fed his will to live long enough to win. He hadn't told Lila that story. But somehow she had inherited the same mercy anyway. Adrian stood up and pulled out his phone. "We're taking you somewhere warm right now." Tessa stared up at him, suspicious. She had heard promises before. She had learned that help can vanish when life gets complicated. "You don't know me," she said quietly. "I don't have anything to pay you with." Adrian shook his head once, simple and final. "You don't owe me anything. We're just getting your baby safe." He called his driver, not security. That choice mattered. Minutes later, the black car rolled up to the curb. A few passers-by slowed. Someone recognized Adrian and whispered. A phone lifted. Adrian ignored. He opened the back door himself. Lila climbed in first and scooted over, leaving space. Tessa stepped inside, clutching the baby like a fragile planet. Warm air filled the car. The baby's cry softened, then stopped. Her tiny chest rose and fell in calmer rhythm. Lila leaned close and whispered, as if she had known this child forever. "You're okay now. We got you." Adrian rode in silence, watching Tessa's face in the mirror. She looked like someone who had been holding her breath for months and didn't know if she was allowed to exhale. He took them to a private clinic his company funded, a place that smelled of clean sheets and quiet urgency. Nurses came fast, gentle, no questions that cut. They checked the baby's temperature, wrapped her in a heated blanket, and brought Tessa warm tea and food. The baby's color returned slowly, like sunrise in a small body. Adrian stood back at first, giving space. Lila didn't. She sat beside Tessa, legs swinging softly, one small hand resting on the edge of the baby's blanket like an anchor. The doctor returned and spoke, with calm certainty. "She's cold, but stable. You got her here in time. She needs rest and steady warmth." Tessa covered her mouth and cried in a quiet way that didn't need sound. It was the cry of a person who has lived too long in alert mode and is finally allowed to loosen. Adrian stepped into the hall and made a call. Not to public relations. Not to lawyers. To the director of his foundation. "We need emergency housing tonight. A caseworker in the morning. Medical follow-up already scheduled. Make sure she's treated with respect." He paused, feeling the truth of his own words, "and make sure she knows this isn't charity. It's care." When he returned, Lila had fallen asleep on a chair. Her head rested against Tessa's arm like it belonged there. Tessa looked down at the sleeping child with stunned tenderness. "She's a good little girl," Tessa whispered. Her raised. Her right. Adrian's throat tightened. "She raised me too, ways she doesn't even know." That night he arranged a clean apartment through a partner shelter. Warm lights, fresh sheets, a crib already waiting. We drove them there himself. Lila woke in the car and smiled when she saw the baby sleeping peacefully in her mother's arms. "See? Daddy, she's warm now." Adrian nodded because you saw her first in. The weeks that followed, Adrian didn't vanish like most rich miracles do. He helped Tessa get long-term housing, medical care, and job training through the foundation. Quietly. No cameras, no speeches. He told the team to keep his name out of it. Tessa needed a life, not a spotlight. One afternoon, a month later, sunlight poured through Tessa's apartment window. The baby slept in her crib, cheeks full, fingers relaxed. Lila sat on the floor drawing, tongue sticking out in focus. She held up her picture proudly. A tiny baby wrapped in a big pink coat with a smiling sun above them. Tessa looked at Adrian with eyes that were still learning to trust good things. "I didn't need a hero," she said. "I needed a chance." Adrian nodded slowly. "Sometimes a chance is the real hero." Lila hopped up and tugged his hand, serious as ever. "We should always help freezing babies, Daddy." "Always," Adrian smiled, eyes shining. "Yes, and we should always listen to hearts like yours." And right there, in a small, warm apartment the world would never headline, Adrian understood something no boardroom had ever taught him. Real power isn't how high you rise. Real power is how fast you kneel when someone is hurting. And sometimes the biggest rescue in the room comes from the smallest voice. If this story moved you, Comment where you're watching from. Tell us about a moment someone helped you when you felt invisible. Subscribe for more cinematic stories about quiet courage, kind hearts, and the simple choices that change lives.